Okay, so today we're diving deep into something I know a lot of you out there are thinking about. Especially if you're in the hotel or restaurant business,
Yeah.
finding that perfect spot to launch that new venture, or maybe you're thinking of expanding.
Right.
You have that great concept in mind, and
Absolutely.
but location, as they say.
It's key. It really is the foundation of everything.
It really is. So we've been looking into someone named Maurice. He's a real expert in hospitality, food and beverage. He's got years of experience.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
And he's been sharing some thoughts on a place he thinks has huge potential for, the culinary world and for the hotel industry. And it might be a bit unexpected.
Okay. I'm intrigued already.
Yeah, he's pointing to Montreux, Switzerland.
Montreux, interesting.
Yeah, so for all of you entrepreneurs listening who are searching for that next big opportunity, Maurice has some really compelling reasons why Montreux should be on your list.
I mean, it's a beautiful place. I've been there as a tourist, but I've never really thought of it from a business perspective. So
Yeah.
I'm really curious to hear what Maurice has to say.
Yeah, and the thing is, he's not just, throwing out a random idea. He really knows his stuff. He's been there. He's seen it firsthand. So we're going to really break down his insights and see why he thinks Montreux could be that ideal location for your next big restaurant or hotel project.
I'm all ears. Let's dive in.
Okay, so first things first, when you picture Montreux, what comes to mind?
Well, it's right on Lake Geneva, right, with the Alps in the background.
Exactly.
So incredibly scenic, really picturesque.
Like something out of a movie.
Yeah. And that's not just about pretty pictures. It's a huge selling point for your business.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine rooms with a view dining with the Alps as your backdrop. People will pay a premium for that kind of experience.
It's built-in marketing.
Exactly. Dine with the Alps as your backdrop. You can't beat that.
And Montreux already has this, sophisticated vibe.
Yeah.
The jazz festival is world famous.
Oh, yeah, it's legendary.
And Maurice points out that it's always been a haven for artists and royalty, so it already has that luxury image.
So you're not starting from scratch in terms of attracting a high-end clientele.
Exactly. They already associate Montreux with quality, with a certain lifestyle.
But what I'm really interested in is what you mentioned earlier about it becoming a foodie destination,
Right.
because that's a game changer for anyone in the food and beverage industry.
It is, and that's what Maurice is highlighting. It's not just a pretty place to visit now, it's a place to have amazing culinary experiences.
So it's building on that existing reputation, but adding a whole new dimension.
Exactly. And, Switzerland in general has this reputation for quality, right? For doing things well.
Oh, absolutely. Their chocolate, their watches, everything is top-notch.
And Marie says Montreux takes that Swiss quality and adds its own special charm, its own unique history and sense of place. It's like a perfect package.
It's like a brand within a brand.
And he talks about this idea of authenticity in Montreux, creating a restaurant with a story. What do you think he means by that?
I think it's about tapping into the soul of the place. It's got this incredible history, this stunning landscape, this rich culture. So your restaurant isn't just a place to eat. It's telling a story. It's connected to something bigger.
Yeah, like it has a deeper meaning.
Exactly. And that resonates with people. They want more than just a meal. They want an experience.
So let's talk about the food itself, because Maurice is really excited about Montreux's terroir and what that means for chefs.
And rightly so. I mean, the microclimate there is unique. The Alps and Lake Geneva create this perfect environment for growing and producing incredible ingredients.
Like, what are we talking about?
Well, think about those amazing alpine cheeses, the perch from Lake Geneva.
Yeah, I've heard that's incredible.
It's so delicate and buttery. And of course, you can't forget the wines from the Lavaux vineyards.
Right. UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Exactly. So you're talking about world-class ingredients right on your doorstep.
And it's not just a list of ingredients. It's a story you can tell with your menu. Dishes that reflect the landscape, the history of Montreux.
It's like the food itself is a storybook.
And Maurice really emphasizes this connection to the land and the people. For chefs, it's a huge source of inspiration.
It's like a wellspring of creativity, You're not just cooking. You're expressing the essence of Montreux through your dishes.
It's a whole different level.
Exactly. And that's what makes it special.
So for the entrepreneurs listening, Maurice says that right now is the perfect time to be looking at Montreux. Why is that?
Well, first of all, you have the Swiss economy, which is incredibly stable.
Right. Always a good thing for business.
And you have a clientele that's used to spending money. They expect quality. They're willing to pay for it.
So you're not worried about people pinching pennies.
No. And tourism's growing too, so you have a bigger pool of potential customers.
And he says there's a real opportunity to stand out from the crowd because you can take that natural beauty that Montreux is famous for and blend it with the latest culinary trends.
It's like a fusion of the classic and the cutting edge.
So you're not stuck in the past, you're innovating, you're creating something fresh and new.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where tradition meets innovation.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening and they're thinking, okay, Montreux sounds amazing, but how do I actually get started?
Well, Maurice breaks it down into 3 key phases.
Okay, so walk us through them.
First up is what he calls feasibility and conceptualization, which is all about laying the groundwork.
So this is where you're really honing your idea.
Right, and he stresses the importance of really thinking about that terroir we talked about. Your concept has to be connected to what Montreux offers.
So give us an example.
He talks about a lakeside brasserie versus a gourmet alpine retreat. 2 very different vibes, but both totally viable in Montreux.
But each one would require a different approach.
Absolutely. And the key here is to make sure your concept really reflects Montreux's identity. It shouldn't feel like it could be anywhere. It has to have that Montreux DNA.
So it feels authentic.
Exactly.
So what's the next phase?
Pre-opening, this is where things start to get real.
Yeah.
You're working with architects. You're sourcing those local ingredients. You're bringing your vision to life.
Exactly. And Montreux has a big advantage here because it's close to so many amazing suppliers and artisans. You know, you've got everything you need right there.
So it's convenient.
Very. And Maurice also points out that because Montreux has such a strong reputation for hospitality, there's a huge pool of talent to draw from chefs, sommeliers, service staff. They're all there.
So you can build a really strong team.
Absolutely, which is crucial in this business.
And then finally, you've got the big day, the opening.
But as Maurice says, this isn't the finish line, it's the starting point.
So you're not done once you open the doors.
No, not at all. Those first 6 months are crucial. He says you have to be listening to customer feedback, fine-tuning your operations, really making sure you're meeting the needs of the Montreux market.
So you've got to be flexible.
Totally, and attentive to detail because expectations are high in Montreux.
So it's a constant process of improvement.
Exactly. You're always learning and adapting.
Now let's talk about the future. Maurice sees some really interesting trends emerging that could really take off in Montreux.
Like what? Well, one is alcohol-free mixology.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, there's a growing demand for really sophisticated non-alcoholic drinks. You know, people are more health conscious, but they still want something special.
Right, it's not just about a soda water anymore.
And Maurice says Montreux is perfect for this because you have all these amazing local herbs, fruits, flowers that you can use to create incredible non-alcoholic cocktails.
So it's like a whole new world of flavor.
Exactly, and it taps into that local terroir that we were talking about.
I love that it's like bringing all these elements together.
And another trend he highlights is hyper-local menus.
Oh, so even more focused on local sourcing.
Yeah, you know, really emphasizing ingredients that come from within a very specific radius of your restaurant.
So you're talking about like 50 kilometers.
Yeah, something like that. And Maurice says this really resonates with diners who are, you know, more and more interested in knowing where their food comes from.
They want that connection to the land.
Exactly. And it's a great way to support local producers.
Absolutely, and it gives you a unique story to tell with your menu.
And the final trend he mentions is atmosphere as experience.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, he says Montreux's musical heritage, the jazz festival, you know, that whole vibe can be a real asset.
So you're talking about creating a dining experience that's multisensory.
Exactly. You know, think about curated playlists, dynamic lighting design elements that evoke music, rhythm, soul.
It's about going beyond just the food. It's about creating a whole mood, a feeling.
And that's what makes it memorable.
Absolutely.
Now, Maurice also shared his own personal vision for a restaurant in Montreux, and it sounds amazing.
I know, I was reading about it. It sounds so idyllic.
He talks about a space that feels like an extension of the landscape, you know, where the lake meets the mountains.
It's so poetic.
And he says every detail, the menu, the decor would tell a story about the region.
It's like a love letter to Montreux.
He imagines a lakeside terrace where you can enjoy fresh perch and Chasselas wine as the sun sets.
Oh my gosh, that sounds incredible.
And then a cozy dining room with a fireplace for the colder months.
Perfect.
And a menu that changes with the seasons, you know, featuring spring asparagus and winter truffles.
It's like you're experiencing the best of Montreux throughout the year.
And he talks about this balance between sophistication and soul, you know, celebrating the art of music, the art of cuisine, and the art of design.
It's like a holistic approach to hospitality.
And for those of you who are ready to take that next step, Maurice mentions that he's part of a company called Montreux Republic.
Oh, okay, I was wondering about that. What is it exactly?
They're a consulting and investment company that specializes in hotels and restaurants.
Oh, so they're really hands-on.
Yeah, they're involved in everything from the initial concept and design to the development and operation of the business.
So they're with you every step of the way.
Their focus is on quality hospitality and service, really doing things right.
I like that philosophy.
They actually have 8 different venues across the Swiss Riviera with a team of 120 people.
Wow, that's impressive.
And Maurice mentions a few of them, like Le Coucou, a beautiful hotel restaurant in the hills near Montreux.
Oh, I've heard of that one.
And then there's Coco Mama in Montreux, which is a Japanese and East Asian-inspired restaurant right on the lake.
Oh, wow, that sounds really cool.
And it's even been recognized by Galt Millau, so, it's high quality.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
And they have Tralala Hotel, which is all about the Montreux Jazz Festival.
Oh, that's so unique.
And they've got a couple of new openings planned for 2025. La Villa in Montreux, which will be a Mediterranean restaurant, and a new Ma Cocotte in Vevey.
So they're really expanding.
They are. And if you're interested in learning more, Maurice says to check out their website, montreuxrepublic.com.
I'll definitely be doing that.
So to wrap things up, what are the key takeaways here? Why is Maurice so convinced that Montreux is the place to be for hospitality entrepreneurs?
I think it comes down to a few things.
Yeah.
You have that incredible terroir that we talked about, those world-class ingredients, and the unique story that you can tell with your cuisine.
It's all right there.
And then you have that history of luxury and a clientele that's used to the best.
They know quality.
Exactly. And then you have this really exciting culinary scene that's developing. It's a place where you can be innovative and really stand out.
So it's the perfect storm.
In a good way.
Maurice really believes that you can create something special in Montreux. Something that reflects your own vision and connects with people on a deeper level.
It's not just about opening a business, it's about creating an experience.
So for all of you listening, what's your dream? What kind of concept could you bring to Montreux that would really take advantage of everything it has to offer?
Would your lakeside terrace look like? What story would your mountain-inspired dining room tell?
Imagine the possibilities.
And who knows, maybe Montreux Republic could be your partner in making it all happen.
It's definitely worth exploring.
Absolutely. It sounds like Montreux is a place where dreams can come true.
So go for it.
Cheers to that.